Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're listening to this show. Welcome to the OLY podcast. Guys, quick we announce it before we get into the show. As of today's show with Weston, we are going to be moving to two shows per month. Reason being, we don't need to be in your ears much since lockdown is over. We don't need to be putting out as much content to you because you've got other shit to be getting on with now that life is getting back to normality. Secondly, well, this is probably the bigger one. We want to maintain the quality of the show, and we feel this is necessary. It takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of production resources to create these shows. Even though the last few have been Zooms, we're now moving into the next phase of what we view the show will be. And for the first half, well, the first phase that we've done has been very conversational, very interview based with guests on the show. Now we're working on kind of some bigger, massive shows and some new kind of flavors of ice cream. The next phase, shall we call it, of what the show will look like. So I think this is the right move. I think it's going to be the best way forward, and I hope it does pan out. So apologies if that fires a spanner in the works for someone. I know we've got some religious listeners, and I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you so much. But yeah, to maintain quality with the nature of where we're going, I think this is the best move. So thank you so much. With that put aside, I just want to welcome you. If it's your first time, welcome to the show. Today we have Weston Clendinning. Weston is a complete rocket. He is a legend among men in my eyes. Weston started out busking 3 or 4 years ago. I used to run an events company in nightclubs and stuff, and we used to put him in the beer garden. And yeah, like I said, I used to see him busking on the streets of Belfast. As of last year, I went and seen him in a sold out concert, and he sold out two concerts in fact. Had plus 1,000 people going to see him and his band called Hunkpapa. I'm a super fan of Hunkpapa, and I would definitely say if you like kind of indie rock folk music, give them a listen because they are so edgy, so different, so new, and they make for really good listening. Weston, in my eyes, is incredibly successful. He has an incredibly tenacious goal and dream. He, in fact, calls himself delusional because his goal and dream is so big. But that's why I respect him so much. He shows up every day. His game in running a band is just like running a business, and there's very, very close similarities in that. So I thought it would be good to get him on the show. I absolutely guarantee you will get a laugh out of him. He is a character. He is probably the most out there person we've ever had on the show, and I hope he brings you a bit of happiness and a bit of joy and a laugh today when you're listening. So once again, thank you so much for listening. I will put this in here. We do have our summer sale up at the moment. There is one more week left of it. There's 75% off on some products. Actually, there's a bit more off on other products. So go on, have a look. It's what I call an absolute bargain. So get on, have a look, see if there's anything for you, and we'll get it shipped out to you. So thank you so much for listening, guys, and I will talk to you real soon. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Ollie podcast. Really exciting show. I've been looking forward to this one for a while. I'm joined by none other than my good friend Weston Clendinning. We have coffee in hand and we're ready to have a great conversation. So Weston, how are you, sir?
Doing very well, thank you. As you said, got a coffee in hand. That's immediately a victory, so I'm pretty happy. I've got a good view outside. I can see the fields. I can see nature. I'm healthy. I'm feeling good.
Awesome, mate. I cannot wait. And quick disclaimer, either Weston or mine internet is being a bit shite right now. So if there's a tiny wee glitch, just have a bit of grace and be patient because it will be back. But yes, no further ado, Weston. I don't even know where to start with this. Normally, I have like kind of a dedicated set of questions relative to the guest coming on. But with you, like even in the intro conversation I got, and I just knew I didn't need it. And a bit of background as to how I met you was flip. I think I was running a night in a nightclub, and I got you in to do the beer garden or something. And I think that was literally the first time I ever came across you. Like we had worked together as well in a catering business that we both slaved under, and so like it's been a pretty long, it's been a pretty like longish relationship. Well, no, a longish time that I've known you, and it's been really, really interesting to see from the outside looking in your journey from, you know, working those crappy jobs, busking on the streets, to then going and selling out Whittle Hall and Limelight and all those things, and we'll talk about that later. But mate, I don't know if you'll if you'll do a good job at this, but succinctly try and lay out your journey right till now in 5 minutes or less. Try and lay out your journey relative to you and relative to where you think you should start until now.
Yeah, I think I'll start my journey at the end of 2017. Cool. Up until that point, I'd done various things. Nothing of note, really. I think it was 2017 that I made the decision in my head, right, I'm going to take this seriously, that being music. And I'm going to do whatever needs done to get a band and start filling venues and start being entertaining. And give it a proper go. I'd never done that before. I'd always fanning around. I think with my approach, I was never direct. So in 2017, I started a band with 3 other guys. I'd been busking previously the year beforehand. 2016, I kind of spent that year just busking almost daily. Because to be honest with you, I've always loved music, but I've never really had any technical ability or training. So I just decided to busk day in, day out for the guts of a year in Belfast. And they kind of paid my rent and stuff. I didn't really have a job, I just did that. It was good. You put the hours in and you become competent and confident as well, which is very important, particularly whenever you're trying to entertain people. And I think that's what busking gave me. But yeah, 2017 came and I was like, right, this is do or die, you know, let's go full ham at this. And I'd kind of struggled to find the right individuals to share that journey with, because it's so important, the right individuals to be around. You can get people that have all the talent in the world, but if they don't have the drive, then, you know, it's kind of hard to get motivated. And the individuals that I got on board at that time were world class in every domain, from being driven to being amazing musicians and brilliant people. So that was great. That was a dream to have people at my team. So yeah, late 2017, I started the first rehearsal as a group, and then within about 6 months, we were playing the Limelight 1, which is like 1,000 capacity venue. And then we did a couple of dates around the UK and stuff, which was really good. Brilliant. So I was super happy. We then got a manager on board in June of 2018. He's managed some pretty cool artists. He manages the guitarist of My Chemical Romance, another band called Thursday, another couple of cool bands. So we had him for a year. He toured us around Europe, put us on a cool tour bus, all this stuff. But to be honest with you, I felt we got complacent. We kind of maybe developed a level of arrogance and started overlooking winning the simple tasks like rehearsing, writing new music, doing the basics. I feel like we got complacent. And so after about a year of having a manager, he's a great guy, an amazing guy, has an awesome track record. But just for us, I didn't feel at the time he was the right guy for us. So we kind of ended that. And I think that shook the team. That shook the team to lose someone who is essentially a dragon, who, you know, me being a deluded individual, the sort of individual you imagine comes in and makes you famous overnight, but that wasn't the case, and that individual certainly didn't say that he would do that. He was more realistic than we were. I think we were the deluded ones, expecting, you know, someone to come in and make us famous. But anyway, we finished with that guy, who I'm still friends with, a brilliant guy, and I asked him his opinion on a couple of things still, and he's good. Maybe we'll cross paths again soon. But so yeah, long story short, we Hunkpapa has been going DIY since, just writing, recording, playing, and getting a small growth in every time we come back to the city. Because for a band, the biggest battle is when they're not only getting people into a room, that's a huge battle. And we did that through like busking around the UK and stuff. We'd busk it in a city before playing a show there 2 months in advance, then come back again and try and get a baseline of people. So that's very important, getting people into the room. A lot of people overlook that and think that that's going to happen for them. A lot of bands kind of expect people to turn up to a show and support the local scene. No one gives a shit about you as a band, so you have to kind of shove it down the throats a bit and say, hey, come see us. Literally play in the street, literally sell tickets. You have to become a salesman. You have to become Matthew drove the length of the country, and there's so many different skills you kind of have to get people in their room, unless you have a record label who's going to do it all for you. But that ain't going to happen. Like, there's more astronauts than there are people getting signed to a record label. Do you know what I mean? So that was the main objective: try and get people in their room by any means necessary. So busk, hand out business cards, all this like obvious stuff. And then the second battle was, and is, when you get those people in the room, you have to win them over. So that's where doing the music stuff comes in. That's where the practicing comes in. Literally muscle memory. When you walk out, you should be able to enter a trance state, thinking about, something else, but still perform, because you're that well versed in it. So that's kind of the second battle, getting to that level where you can perform and entertain confidently, and give people value for money when they come see you. And not only that, have it where they're like, I really enjoyed that. I'm going to come back with a friend. I'm going to leave with a t-shirt and come back with a friend. And that's kind of what we've done. And I'm really proud of that, because that speaks volumes. And yes, the shows that Hunkpapa have done thus far are relatively very small, but with that concept of people leave with the t-shirt and come back with a friend, I'm really proud of that. And I want to keep that going and grow that. And as long as you have that, you're always going to grow, But yeah, so timeline, blah, blah, blah. We're just doing that. That's it. I'm currently on my own right now. Hunkpapa is just myself. Unfortunately, the three other guys who I have played with for the last 2 years are going off doing their own things, which I totally respect. I think like Matthew Davidson and Paddy Cartwright and John O. Whittington, and the three of them are terrific individuals. And for me, it's a great shame, because I think musically, performance-wise, they have such world-class potential that I think we've yet to really tap into. But you know what? It's an adverse road ahead. There is no salary. There is no guarantee. And I think that's just something you have to accept. And I know that I'm deluded enough, and maybe that's the word, deluded, to just weather the storm for as long as it takes. Because I do believe that Hunkpapa, in whatever shape or form, will step out to, the biggest venues in Europe eventually. Just got to make sure the songs are good enough, which is an ongoing process. But anyway, well, mate, that's my story.
To be honest, mate, that was an incredible intro story. I know your story. I've watched it and witnessed it, and I know all the intricacies that go on in behind. Well, maybe not all of them, but even for you to recite that again and go over that again was magic. Because I know what you said has actually happened. And you're not bullshitting and all those things that have went down already. And that's probably a good place to start was, you said that you're on your own, and a lot of people would be really surprised to hear that. A lot of fans of Hunkpapa would be surprised to hear that as well, but that's the nature of a band, and that you know, drummers will come in, then a guitarist will come in, and then maybe you'll get a backing vocalist or whatever it may be. And how do you, you know, kind of weather that storm was the word you use. So how do you like continue on and like keep continuing to latch onto that dream that you had, even though the team or the environment's changing, not all the time, but they're big changes, they're your bandmates. So, you know, how does that affect you, and how do you continue to move on after that?
Well, yeah, firstly, it's for me, it's far from the ideal, not playing with, you know, the guys who we essentially, you know, we're such a tight team and had such a vision dream together, and to see guys kind of, you know, lose that to some degree, which is fine, by the way. I respect that. Let me just say that I this is one thing I'm learning in life. Everyone has their own dreams, their own objectives, their own things, and I respect that. I'm slowly realizing this, that everyone's different in life, and I think it's very important to respect that. So, like, there's no like
Malice.
I think people have to do what's right for them, even though there's, in my opinion, there's a lot of potential there. But so to answer your question, what to do? Is that what your question? Like how does
well, even actually the words that I've written down here, and I just was taking notes like mad there in their intro. Like, it's belief in yourself, but then belief in the journey and faith in the journey as well. Like, for example, like I said, you've lost your band members. You know, they've went on to greener pastures in their own life, and like, you had to come to terms with not everybody will want the same dreams as you. And so I suppose I'm asking multiple questions, and that's probably why you're a bit confused. You know, but how do you continue on when big roadblocks like that occur, when people leave, when things happen that you didn't foresee? How do you continue on?
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, I don't know if there is a formula. I think if you have to explain to someone how to continue on. I mean, let me just add to this here. Like, so this has been over a space of 4 months. An entire year of gigs been cancelled. You know, I'm down, like, I'm broke financially, right? I'm broke. I'm absolutely broke. I owe people money, just from various things that I expected would be paid back from, let's say, the May tour and stuff like that. But I don't give a shit. I don't feel any different. Like, you could say it's adverse. I don't feel any different to when we were playing, you know, sold out London show this time last year, and it was amazing. I think it's because the way I have my brain is kind of rock bottom anyway, if you know what I mean, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So, like, anything in the right direction is a huge bonus for me. I always look at things like, I don't know how to explain it, where you're comfortable with being uncomfortable, because this is what this entire journey is, and you have to accept that, not linger on it, not get beat up over it. But for me, what keeps me going is something I don't think you really can. There's no formula. I think with anything, you know, if you're questioning, will I go on, and all of this stuff, or trying to work out how do I overcome this or keep going, I think it's something that can't be spoken. It's either in you or it's not. Like, I know for me that I will, you know, the one thing that's going to stop me here is essentially dying. That is it. You know, if I have my health, which is like amazing. I'm so grateful, by the way, to be in good health. Like, you know, more now than ever, you know, when you see what's going on and stuff. I think whenever you've got your health, for me anyway, that's like it. If I have my health, then nothing will stop me. That's my mindset. And I think whenever you foster that mindset, you kind of just don't make excuses. Just don't make excuses. Just do it. Yeah. Get it done by any means necessary. That's it. It's as simple as that. So with that, you develop an element of confidence in yourself that whatever happens, you'll get there. However, you can't be too deluded, because, you know, my objectives are statistically diluted. You know, there are very few bands that make it. Like, so you're automatically up against it. But I think whenever you realize you're deluded and you're absolutely screwed, which is what I am, I think you start taking the necessary steps and action to become less screwed.
And on that note, mate, it's actually something that I relate to as well. And it kind of right up until about a year ago, I was much so in the same spot because, you know, I had started my entrepreneur journey when I was like 19, 20 years old. And you can kind of float on by for a couple of years, but then life catches up and you have to start growing up, and, you know, life begins to move on. You get older, you want to meet people, you want to settle down, you want to get a house, you want to do all those big life things. And whenever they come in, especially, well, that's what it was for me. It's like this big visionary dream that you had. Yes, we have all the faith in the world that we will make it, but there's an element of that you have to be realistic. I mean, at the end of the day, if I can't pay bills and I can't, you know, keep a car on the road and keep myself going for Medi Beef, you know, in the right ways, well, then it just, there has to be a point, a tipping point or a crux or a precipice that you need to come to and say, like, look, we tried, I learned a lot along the way, but I gotta fucking look after, because you'll have a future family, you'll have a future kid and wife and whatnot, and you gotta start thinking of those responsibilities that are up ahead as well. And I love the fact that you're realistic with it. You know, delusion's a very, very big thing in business, in bands, and I actually closely link business and bands. They're very much so the same in the principles in which they operate, and we'll talk about that after. But it's interesting to see you so down to earth for someone that is such a visionary and such a dreamer. It's interesting to hear that you're fully aware that your chances are very slim. The chances of you making it are very, very low, but you're still dedicated to pursuing this dream that you had and pursuing this goal that you set out, no matter how big it was.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. I think it's so important to realize that. For me, anyway, that's what you know gets you out of bed, is realizing, hold on a second here, you know, this isn't just going to happen.
It's like, exactly, and that almost, that realism, because if you were deluded, you wouldn't have the same urgency. You would just kind of saunter on by.
Well, I mean, there's definitely still a splash of delusion, which I think, but to be honest, I think everyone, you know, I think it's good to have that to some degree, you know.
I don't even think it's delusion, Wes, and I think it's more so you've come to terms with how fucking crazy the idea that you're setting out to achieve is.
Yes.
Like, it is. It's absolutely ridiculous, you know.
Completely right. I'm trying to make a career out of, you know, writing music and selling out venues across the world. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, you're up against it, but do you know what? I love it. So even if I made 100 million elsewhere, and this is the thing, music or anything, this is the thing. People think because I'm doing music or whatever, it's this big exotic thing and it sounds cool or whatever. It's a pain in the ass in many regards, and I think any path is a pain in the ass. But the one thing I'm learning, and I've only recently started thinking like this. I was up my own ass for quite some time. I was quite arrogant. I liked looking at other people and maybe being a bit arrogant in my head. It doesn't matter what your pursuit is, in my opinion. I see people who are so happy, right? So happy, happier than I am, right? Like way happier, doing what they love. And it's not necessarily a glamorous thing of, you know, I'm a stockbroker, or, you know, I fish for bluefin tuna off the coast of California every day, or, you know, I'm a surf. You know, it can be simple things like, you know, I manufacture really nice tables and I love handcrafting these tables. And I love chatting to people like this who love it. They love it. And, you know, they're living their life and that's it. And it's awesome. And I think it doesn't really matter what your journey is. I think as long as you love it and you're a boss at it, I think that, like, I respect people that is their pursuit, whatever they do, because everyone's different. Everyone is so different.
I mean, I picked up two things, and the first thing is like the relativity of happiness and the relativity of your own success, and it's the essence of this podcast and why we set it out, to show that success doesn't need to be standing in front of a crowd playing to thousands or hundreds of thousands of people. It could be, you know, loving your craft, like you say, creating amazing tables, taking great pride in your work, you know, being like dedicated to the craft of design and elegance and whatever you're doing. And then, you know, that kind of life can then set you up to be able to have plenty of time to go home and spend with your kids, or go home and invest it in the relationships that matter to you, or whatever other hobbies or other interests. But I think that's the big thing that I also was a bit oblivious to. You know, I was like, I used to sit and think, you know, why are other people not doing all these big things? Everybody has the same potential. Everybody's born equal. And why are people not going out? But like you said, some people just, and it's not a bad thing either. It's just as a visionary, and I know you are too, as someone who's a massive dreamer and just comes up with these big fucking gargantuan ideas. It's like, why are you not trying to change the world? Why are you not trying to fucking, you know, reinvent the wheel?
Because they're not narcissistic assholes.
Exactly.
We're
Exactly.
assholes. I'm an asshole.
It's,
Lewis, I'm an
yeah.
asshole. I want to go out and play to people and them all fuck. Well done. That's like, you know, I'm an asshole. You know, that's...
Well, you're not an asshole, mate. And we kind of spoke about this on the phone the other day, and it's like you refer to it as arrogance, but I picked up on what you were saying as having a big ego, and it's actually something that we're talking about and tackling right now. It's actually something that I'm reading about right now, because I know I have a big ego, and a lot of I think there's a negative stigma or connotation attached to ego. Everyone has an ego. Ego is merely the worldly story that you tell yourself, that you perceive yourself in the world in. You know, it's how you see yourself will then dictate how you see the world. And you were saying that you were looking at other people, that you were like maybe thinking you were maybe above them or better than them, or I can do this.
Not above. I never think I'm above any. I never thought that. I just would always be like, why are you doing that? You know, and that's
exactly. And I think it's something that comes with having a big ego. And again, there's nothing wrong with having a big ego. It's just making sure that your version of reality isn't so skewed that you become a bell end, that you start, you know, looking at people differently, or you start losing touch with reality. And that's something that I'm really tackling and focusing on right now in my own game. And it's really, really interesting to hear. And some people can perceive it as arrogance as well, where they think they're above. But bottom line, there's a dichotomy to it, right? And put it this way, Weston, if you didn't have a very strong ego, you couldn't go out in front of 1,000 people, or, you know, tens of thousands of people and wow
30 people sometimes. If you're playing in Swindon.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? It's like, if you didn't have that big persona, that big ego, that you couldn't go and stand in front of all those people and wow them and be this complete showman and, like, you know, give them an hour, the best hour of their day or the best hour of their week. Like, you just couldn't.
Well, this is the thing. This is the thing. I think confidence is good. Confidence is not arrogance. And an ego, you know, have you ever seen Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King? Or Lord of the Rings, any of the Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
Right. Well, bear with me. This is the analogy I'll use for the ego.
Oh, wow.
In the battle scenes, there'll be a battle, and then it'll pause, and everyone will look up, and there'll be like 4 orcs coming out with chains, and this big, massive bastard of a cave troll wearing armor, right? And he's deadly. And if they harness this guy against their enemy, he's going to be devastatingly useful for them, right? But what happens quite a lot of the time, he'll go and he'll knock an orc off that's handling him. He'll knock another orc, and then the cave troll goes rogue and starts killing his own guys. And I think that cave troll is like an embodiment of the ego. It can be a force used for good or positivity for yourself, but in equal measure, you can use it as a force for the opposite of negativity and use it for essentially bad. And I think it's important to balance your ego. But this takes me to my next point that I have realized is an ego or confidence and maybe an opinion of yourself, a good opinion of yourself, is a great thing to have. But you must have, or this is for me, you must have that anchor of humility,
Yeah.
you know, in tandem with that. Humility, in my opinion, is one of the most important things. And whenever I go out on stage and wear my red jacket and whatever, and people are probably saying, oh, that guy's an asshole, whatever, which is totally fine because I am, and I look like one. But let me tell you something. One thing that I believe has got me any ounce of success, and I have a million miles to go as well. I'm still nowhere, I've yet to make it. But of all the victories that I've had of saying, my God, I'm loving this, this is amazing, I tell you something, it has been humility beneath the persona that has got me that. It is realizing that, hey, you are a million miles off the mark. You know, look at the guys that have been before you. You're trying to get into, this is what I tell myself, you're trying to get into music, look at the guys before you and compare yourself to the best there. You are pond scum compared to them. So take the steps to get there. And when you realize that you are pond scum, that's when you start moving in the right direction. And I think for me, that's when the combination of an ego and having humility it's a great combination, you know.
How do you
well.
Yeah, how do you practice humility? What are maybe some tools or things that you do to practice humility?
That's a really good question. Well, I think maybe gratitude. Gratitude, I think, is maybe very important when you realize how lucky you are. You know, I was having a cup of coffee. I'm sitting here looking out a window and a wall. Everything's quite, you know, I'm going out a banana there. It was pretty amazing. You know, relative to most people on planet Earth, that's, you know, you're automatically winning massively there.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I've been born into this, and I'm very lucky. So maybe that, in a sense, creates humility. I don't know what creates humility, really.
I think staying grounded, mate, like you even said there at the start, like you really don't look at your journey as if you've found any success yet. You don't look at yourself as a successful person, even though I would wholeheartedly disagree. And I think that comes from having the humbleness and the humility to remain grounded and it comes, yeah, I think practicing gratitude is a really good one. And, you know, even just saying, look, I am thankful for the fact that I can sit in my nice warm house, drink a nice coffee.
Or freezing if you live here.
Yeah, and, you know, have a nice breakfast and, you know, I have a great environment to write my music. And like, even if you're just truly grateful for those things, if you find happiness and gratitude in those things, imagine how happy you'll be when you get to the shows and you're performing, doing what you were born to do in front of many people. It's
important, sorry to interrupt, but one thing is, I think it's very important to absolutely give yourself a pat on the back and enjoy the moments that you've worked hard for. For me, that's a big thing. If there's a moment that I've worked hard for, I think enjoy them and say, "Fuck yeah, good on you, well done. This is a success." But never rest on those laurels. Once you start resting on those laurels, wow, you're snookered. See, when you think you're, you know, that's one thing I noticed. See, whenever I start giving myself a pat on the back, and that pat on the back goes beyond, let's say, that show, it goes on for a week. You know, oh, I'm the man. That's whenever you get complacent and you're not the man.
I think, mate, what I'm really loving what you're saying, because in so many things, in humility, in giving yourself a pat on the back, or gratifying yourself, ego and the arrogance and the confidence rather than arrogance, there's actually a dichotomy in every single one of those. And what a dichotomy is the paradox in which that exists. So, for example, with an ego, imagine it's an inverted U, right? So at the top of the U is the perfect balance of ego. You know, you don't have a big ego and you don't have too much of a small ego. And it's the same with confidence. Your confidence comes from the action you take, but when you get overconfident, you get complacent. And it's the same with humility. Too much humility and you're not going to get anything done, but too little and you're not going to kind of put yourself on the right foundation to move forward. And there's so many things there that it's a balancing action. Even one thing you said, resting on your laurels, or like tapping yourself on the back. Yes, it's great to celebrate. It's good to because in the line of work, we need to celebrate our quick wins, because, you know, our big grand visions won't be implemented or finished or finalized for another 5 to 10 years if we truly want to pursue it to the level we want to do it. And, you know, to take those small victories and celebrate them when you can is so important. But like you said, if you played a crazy good show on a Saturday and still the Friday after you're still resting on that, that was a great show. No, fucking, you have to move on, and it's like a discipline almost, because it's so easy to rest on them. It's so easy to say, like, how many of your friends do you talk to and they're like, oh, do you remember when we played Schools Cup rugby and we got to the semi-final? And
I can understand that though. I can definitely understand that, you know.
I understand it, but it's like,
I can understand reminiscing on things.
There's a difference between reminiscing and just resting on your laurels and like still attaching that as part of your fucking identity, even though you know what I mean. And I used it as a very, very loose example, but I'm sure you can understand what I mean. Where
I do, yeah. I do.
People can get caught up in the wee stories and the wee things in history that they've achieved in the past, and it just clouds their ability or their judgment to proceed and to keep conquering goals and to stay humble and have humility in the process of going forward. But mate, you know what? I'm loving so much about what you're saying, and it's so interesting because, and I said it before, is that I think business and music are so closely linked. It's unbelievable. You know, having worked
music
closely,
is a business. It's like any other industry. You know,
100%. But even, let me finish, and the main thing is like, you know, yes, you're an incredible musician. You can write really, really good songs and you can perform incredibly well. But there are other skills involved. Like you said about, you have to be a salesman. You literally have to go out and give out tickets and meet people and talk to people. And, you know, merchandising is another thing. And then marketing is another thing. Creating content's another thing.
Yes.
Create music video, doing launch strategies. So like, only from having been close to Paddy can I get an insight into this. And it's so interesting because from someone that's never been in that industry, I was pretty blasé, and it's like, oh, they're just fucking put up a song and that's it. But no, there's incredible there's a whole amount of other skills involved.
Well, firstly, there's two different things. There's music and there's the music industry. Really, ideally, I don't want to be anywhere near the music industry. I'd rather experts do all this stuff and they just give me loads of money and I can just concentrate on the music. But unfortunately, that doesn't happen. It does happen, but the statistics in that are, you know, we can't rely on that happening. But yeah, the music industry is massive. The amount of money is massive. When you have 80,000 people paying for tickets of 50 quid, it employs a lot of people, it employs a lot of specific experts. But the point that I'm trying to make is the artists that you see, you know, on the charts, you know, who are doing well, they have hundreds of thousands, millions of pounds backed into them. They have like full-time office working on their behalf, doing marketing. It's like anything, you know, it's like any other business as you can imagine. But it's insane. People don't realize that, you know, and people say it's unfair, you know, oh, that artist a load of money pumped in them. Well, you know what? It's the free market. Suck it. Do you know what I mean? You're just annoyed because you didn't get 200 grand. And I'm like that. I'm like, you know, oh, why have I not got a record deal? And it's, well, you know, tough shit. You know, you're not open.
It's exactly, and it's very much so like business. And, you know, I could relate that. I could say, oh, look at, I could name any big brand and say, look at the budget they have, look at the human resources they have, look at the team, look at the skill, look at the athletes they're working with, whatever it may be. And it's all situational and it's all relative, but nobody gives a fuck. Like, you have your own journey and you gotta make use of the resources that are available to you. And I think to continue on with this skills thing is like, one thing I've really been interested with you guys is how you've marketed, and you know, that could be a lot down to Paddy and his genius. But like, even in writing your song and developing like the brand of Hunkpapa, you know, that kind of Native American theme to it, and like even that's a great question. Where the fuck did that come from?
Hunkpapa are a subsidiary of the Sioux tribe. I'm sure you've heard of the Sioux.
Were they the big three? One of the big three tribes, or one of the big four?
Yeah, they're one of the biggest. But anyway, they're sort of in North Dakota area. The Hunkpapa tribe, and their chieftain was a guy Sitting Bull, and another guy called Crazy Horse. And essentially, Sitting Bull was the last Native American to. He said, "I'm the last to set down my weapon," or something like that. He was the last Native American, essentially, to stand up to the West. And I don't know if you ever heard about the Battle of the Little Bighorn, in which
last stand.
Exactly, yeah. And I just thought there was something profound about this tribe who had such a belief in their way of life and wanting to fight for it. And their way of life was pretty class, to be honest. And the white man, us, the Europeans, were forcing these values upon them and this way of life that they didn't want. And I think that was just quite profound, And I loved how they stood up for what they believed in. And I think we can learn a lot from them. And they were also a very welcoming tribe. That's another thing. Whenever they surrendered, they became a very peaceful and welcoming tribe. I mean, they were one of very few tribes to welcome in, white travelers into their tribe and let them marry, Sioux women and stuff like that, which I thought was great as well, because we can learn from that. And people often say, cultural appropriation stuff. Yeah, I can understand an argument for that, but the Sioux don't really give a shit about skin color. They see people as people, and I think that's brilliant. And I think we need to maybe think a bit more like that these days. Both ways, that works both ways. Whenever you have they made a president of the United States an honorary member, I think in 1920. I can't remember the name of the president, and gave him a full headdress and stuff, and it was brilliant. It was such a symbolic thing, where they're willing to move with the times for the sake of peace, and they've embraced culture. But yeah, it's tricky because a lot of Native American communities and stuff have kind of been left behind, and there's a lot of poverty and drug abuse and stuff. But anyway, like that's really bad actually, and kind of America's got a lot of problems that they should need to look into. But anyway, that was the inspiration. And I'll tell you how. I'll go back. My grandpa took my mum when she was a child out to the battle, Little Bighorn battle, and they brought back these paintings that my grandpa shipped back, and they were in my house, and I looked at them for my entire life. And there's just massive. Here's one of them actually. Hold on.
Yes.
There's one of them there.
That's cool.
So yeah, you can't see it because it's back to front, but it says Hunkpapa there, Hunkpapa, Dakota. But yeah, I was just always inspired by these guys. That's where the name came from. Sorry, that was a bit long-winded, but there you go.
I love it, mate. I love it. And it's not like, it's not you just slapping a label on something. There's actually...
Well, it is. It kind of is, actually. but
Well, what I mean is you just didn't come up with a random name out of your ass and slap that on the band. Like, there is serious messages in what even when I was listening to, I didn't know the full story. I knew there was that Native American origins, but I didn't know the story and all the intricacies, mate. There's a lot of kind of connection in there, and I can see that you're passionate for a lot of reasons.
I just really, really hope that it's seen as respect, because that's entirely that's what I named the band after, because I'm fascinated by Native Americans, particularly the Hunkpapa tribe. I thought they're pretty awesome, So I hope any of their members that ever, I hope they see it's a mark of respect, but I can understand if they don't, So I'll do what's right if it ever comes to the time where it's, people feel like it's really,
If anything, you're raising awareness. If anything, you're spreading the name. If anything, you're kind of sharing their cultural, because you could be the gateway to someone being like, well, what's Hunkpapa? Someone could listen to this show and be like, holy shit, that's interesting. And then
Exactly.
they could go and Google it and get informed and become aware of what happened and what is happening to them right now.
Yes, I certainly
Which
hope so.
I respect. Yeah. So, there's one thing I wanted to tell you or ask you. Not the big question, not just yet, but we were briefly talking about this before, and you shared a story with me, and it's just too damn good not to share. And it's kind of, I'll give a bit of context to it. So I think I did mention at the start, I've watched you from playing small pubs in front of 10 people to busking on a street, having nobody watching, to I went live and watched you in Limelight and in a couple of these big venues. For people who don't know, pretty big venues relative to Belfast. Belfast is not a big city for massive gigs, but they're wee intimate gigs and they're great. And so I watch you going from kind of nothing to standing in front of a crowd of 1,000 screaming fucking screaming crazy bitch ass fans. And for me, as someone who's in the pursuit of something that that I've had this big vision and I've got these big goals, it was just so refreshing and so nice to see someone actually achieve a bit of what they had set out to achieve. And I want you to go over the Limelight story, because there's an element in there and there's a message in there that I think people would really, really love to hear. So tell me that, mate. I want to hear it again.
Yeah, I think, was it whenever I just told you, I literally just imagined it?
Yeah, mate, because it's, as someone, so the element of it is the visionary element, and having to see it in your mind and conceive the idea, and if you can conceive the idea, you can take action on it ultimately.
Yeah, it sounds like if I was watching this and I heard someone say this, I'd say, oh, here we go, but genuinely, I'm not joking. I genuinely imagined exactly what happened, down to a T. I even imagined, checking the guitar amp and stuff, and then bang, all this, and it happened down to a T, because I got really excited about this vision. I was lying in my house in County Armagh with my parents. Well, I wasn't lying in bed with them, but it was their house, and not a lot of things going on, not a lot of things going on, and I've been working a few side jobs. Yeah. So anyway, I just remember sitting there and the window was open. It was lovely and it was brilliant. And I just imagined, right, Limelight, filled venue, songs I've written, people are going nuts to it. They're loving it. I'm loving it. I'm with dudes who are loving it, playing. And there's just this amazing connection, walking out and the lights come on. I imagine it. And it happened 6 months later, down to a T. Not a lot's happened since then. I haven't really, gone beyond that, across the UK, but it still happened, and it taught me that vision is important. Tasting, seeing, hearing, touching, everything of your dream, imagining it, and getting excited over that dream. Get excited and make it a reality. Believe in it, and you'll do whatever it takes.
It's a big thing about I think the main message is the power of visualization, and it's definitely a tool that I've used in my journey. And whenever you describe it to me, I could so vividly see it. I could so vividly experience it, from you said about your guitar amp, fixing your guitar amp, what you were wearing, who was there, picturing the faces in the crowds, the location. You chose the Limelight randomly. That was just the vision that you had, and then ultimately a year later or 6 months later, it was in the Limelight, fully sold out, fucking ramping crowds going fucked off.
I think it was because the only real venue I actually knew, if you know what I mean. It's the only one I could kind of imagine,
But it's crazy how, and this is not to say, for people listening, this is not to say that if you come up with this big grandiose idea, it'll happen, because getting the vision is just the first part. It's the kind of the conceive, believe, achieve idea of the law of attraction in a way, and it's if you can picture it in your head, add structure to it, add a vividness, add a realness to it. Like it's kind of like, it's the same as me saying, like, I can experience what it's like to be 90 sitting on my deathbed, and that's why it's so easy for me. Or well, that's how I can draw a lot of motivation to get up and do my shit, because I
Yeah.
can
It's important
feel
to have a
stuff.
conversation with that guy, 96
Yeah,
year old Lewis.
exactly. Asking 90-year-old Lewis, were you proud of what you done, and picturing the life that he lived, and hopefully I can follow those steps. But it's another example of it, and people think it's maybe not wrong to dream, but wrong to be unrealistic. But if you hadn't have had that big vivid thought and then started taking action, at least because of that dream, you had somewhat of a plan to follow. You knew you wanted it to be limelight. You knew kind of the time of the year you wanted it to be. You knew what you had to do to make it happen. And
Yeah.
because it was so vivid, you took all the relative steps to get there. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
And it's one of the biggest strengths of being like I'm not too sure if it's right-brained or left-brained. I don't want to say it and be wrong, but it's whatever side of the brain you think with predominantly. You're either a visionary thinker or a binary black and white thinker, and you're obviously a very visionary or visually orientated thinker. And with that comes an incredibly innate ability to kind of picture these grandiose ideas.
Yeah.
And then there's within that, like I was saying earlier about the dichotomy of it, you can actually be too visionary orientated, where these grandiose visions are coming to you and yet they're just so big or they're so broad, or your action is just too little that it's never going to be implemented. So
exactly, there's a huge pain in the ass. Like there's the you want to do something, which is great, awesome, right? But the huge pain in the ass that 99% will get beaten over is, are you willing to do what it takes to get that? That's way, like, that's, do you know what I mean? Like, that's what I think it's about. Are you willing to do what it takes? And there's going to be sacrifices, there's going to be adversity on the road. No one's going to give you a pat on the back telling you you're brilliant. It's this, what's in here, this fire, as I call it. And don't let that fire go out either.
Yeah. And I think as well, the big thing is like the magic really happens in the action that you take in trying to achieve this vision. But the ability to latch onto that vision, the ability to keep it fresh in your head and continually and consistently address it in your mind, always latching back to that, whether you have whatever goal it might be. You might be trying to look better physically, and I done this last year. I was unhappy with how I looked, and literally every day in the gym, every single day. Every single day I went in, and at the end there's a shower with great downlighting in the gym, which really helps. But
gym. Don't go to CrossFit gym if you're trying to get off.
I was like, I'm happy where I am, but I know I've so much ahead, and it's like to visually picture yourself looking leaner, and to feel or to kind of picture yourself in a body that you truly like. And it's just an isolated example, and it's only relative to me, but whatever you're trying to achieve, it's have that idea, have that vision in your brain, and think about it every day. Think about the action you're taking relative to it every day.
Lewis.
And it's the small victories repeated daily mantra that's how you deliver that. Do you know what I mean?
For sure. I had the same thing, right? I had breasts about 2 months ago, and my objective wasn't to become this gym shark. It was just to lose my breasts. And small victories repeated daily. I ate less donuts and moved a tiny bit more, and I lost my breasts. Well, I went down a few bra sizes. They're still like around double A's.
But that's the daily action, and that's the magic, and where the magic happens is in the daily and the small victories that you accumulate over a long period of time. Like that's literally where the mantra and motto of this company comes from. Like success is a sum of small victories repeated over a long period of time, and that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
And it's so fucking true, because whenever I got it tattooed on my arm, I made it the company motto purely because I knew whether I was doing OLY or whether I was doing another project, one recurring theme was, if I show up every fucking day and I fulfill my potential relative that day, if I do all that I can do relative to how I'm feeling that day, well then over a period of time you're going to get something.
Yeah.
But it's just having the tenacity and the adherence and the hard work to show up every single fucking day.
Yeah. I'm shit at that. Like, I'm really inconsistent, by the way. Really inconsistent. Like,
that's interesting for me to hear that as well.
Yeah. No, like, I'm always like, okay, yeah, this is what I'm doing. I want to do this, blah, blah, blah. But with myself, if there's stuff not on, like currently right now, calendar wiped. We were supposed to go to America for like 3 weeks in September and do like a tour of the UK.
Yeah,
It was great. And I was awesome getting into that sort of mindset. And that's all kind of gone now. There's nothing in the pipeline. I get inconsistent. I sleep in, I'll do like 3 weeks, getting up at 7 and, work till 10 on music doing then I'll spend 2 weeks not working out, get up at 11, probably get wasted at some point during that week. So I'm hugely inconsistent, but I think I try to fight that, but I'm slowly realizing it might be a bit of a strength in a weird way, being unbelievably inconsistent, because I think
one thing, if I can interject, especially in your line of work where it's so creatively orientated,
exactly.
that, if you show up a day and you just don't have that, it's called writer's block, or, there might be a more to music example, but you can show up with the best intentions, but if you're doing heavily orientated creative work, it's difficult to go. Like, you couldn't go and write a losing all every fucking day. You couldn't go and write a Rachel every day. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly, and that's the real problem with this game. Is I'd love it to be right. You're in at 7, you're out at 7, right, working, and you get X. You put X hours and you get X out. And I've tried to make it like that, but it's just unfortunately kind of not with music, because it is a chaotic thing,
Yeah.
You kind of have to be slightly insane. Like, whenever you're thinking of music, you're deliberately trying to escape reality. You're deliberately trying to be a bit insane. Do you know what I mean? You're imagining things. You're making things up in your head,
I think how I interpret that is you're trying to create something from nothing. What you're creating never fucking existed. It never was a thing.
Yeah.
Like, the words in the order, with the chord patterns, with the drums, with the singer, with everything, with it all, it never existed before. And work like that is original work. Original creative work is so hard because of that.
But unless you're talented, you see, this is the thing. I'm actually not really that talented. I just put a lot of effort in. But there's talented people, like properly talented people, who just go in the room, bang, written, no problem.
That's Paddy. Paddy can just do shit like that.
Yeah, but but even the most unproductive slob like Liam. Well, right, he's not an unproductive slob, but let's say someone like Liam Gallagher. You go in, he'd smoke a rollie, gin and tonic, and he'd write a banger, like a hit. He'd write a hit in about 15 minutes with his brother, and they'll just go, recorded that in 30 minutes, we love Man City, and that works for them. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if you said to Liam Gallagher, right, Liam, we've got you in for a CrossFit session, 6:30. You're doing a podcast. You're going to get a fucking NutriBullet breakfast. You're going to have an acai bowl. We're going to get you into yoga. He wouldn't do. It'd be shite. He needs chaos. Do you know what I mean? Wonderwall wouldn't be written if he was eating acai bowls. We needed him in the pub from 11, getting pissed, doing terrible things.
I get it, mate. I get it.
So
Mate,
that's
do you know
my
what?
problem. That's my problem because I'm half and half. I love the discipline,
But
I love this, but I also love the chaos. So it's hard to strike the two. Do you know what I
but I
mean?
think it's the number one thing, mate, is that you recognize that you're aware of that. Do you know what I mean? It would be different if you were sitting trundling along and you didn't realize, right? Because well, one, say if you didn't realize that you work the way you work, well, then you wouldn't really get much done. Like, for example, if you know and recognize that you're a very facial worker, whenever you come to the money shots, or whenever you know you're getting into that creative flow, you're like, right, shit, I
Yeah,
need to fucking work here. I need to write as much as I can, because
exactly.
I don't know how long this is going to last, and I don't know when it's going to come again. So
Exactly.
you need to take that time and fucking nail it,
But
and
that's
be
that's when I
aware
do
and
like
recognize.
18 hours straight without break, not speak to anyone. Like that's
Yeah,
like I did that for about 3 weeks there. Just literally like 7 a.m. till about 12 at night. Like genuinely. I have a board there written like of my timings that I would get into like super strictly. Just because for whatever reason the brain is in that zone of music. I don't know. It's probably just something wrong with me, but yeah. And I have a million miles to go. Like if I was watching me right now, I'd be like, okay, right, whatever. This guy's not Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. Like I could just be chatting the biggest pile of crap. Do you know what I mean? So
nah, man,
anyone
absolutely
that's
not.
listening, I hope they haven't been bored. I hope they haven't been bored and think I'm
But
an
I
absolute
can tell you
knob.
right now, no listener is going to be bored. But I think it's good, mate. Like we've talked about it again. You're remaining humble. I mean, you're comparing yourself and putting yourself on a pedestal with these great guys, and sometimes that's negative, but for you, it's clearly a positive in that you're seeing how far you've yet to go. It's not diminishing your need, want, or drive to show up every day. So thus, it's a great motivator for you to know
Mm-hmm.
that I'm happy with where we're at, but no, I'm happy with where we're at, but I'm hungry to proceed and to move forward and to achieve the high life that you want to achieve.
I had an amazing conversation with the guy on my lawn the other day. We were kicking a football about. Have you seen that TV show Normal People?
Normal people, is it the Irish? The Irish one?
Yes.
I
Yes.
haven't.
Well, the dude Niall in it, he's an old friend of the guy I live with, and I subsequently we're kind of like buddies. He's a good guy, and he shares the same vibe. Like 3 years ago, he was working in a bar and it was terrible and blah blah. Now he's been showing up, passionate. He's been working hard, grinding away, one thing after another, vision, and he hasn't let other people fucking pee in his bonfire. And he's just got there, and he's had a massive opportunity there. He's now done really well. He's getting other things, and it was amazing to take that in because he's a few years ahead of me in the game, and it was wonderful to see someone through just doggedness and love for what they do. And he's also worked at his craft. Like he's a really good actor.
Yeah, and that to me, if I can jump in on that, like that's timing plus opportunity equals success, and I
Yeah.
think that equation is actually the equation for luck. It's like luck plus opportunity, or luck plus time and plus opportunity. I don't know, but it's like the fact that he stayed on, he kept dedicating himself to his craft to be the best that he could be,
Yeah.
that hopefully after 3 4 5 years of doing it, someone will recognize and he'll be ready. Someone will recognize and he is good to go. He is good to step in front of the camera and act his nutsack off, because
Yeah.
he has worked like a dog for the last 4 to 5 years to get really good. And it's likewise
Yeah,
in
he
your
couldn't
game.
more.
It's the exact
I'd
same.
say I cut over 10 years. Over like yeah.
And that's,
He has a degree in law. He had a degree in law, and he's like, this isn't for me, and he backed himself. I was like, fuck, this
yeah.
is
And
great.
I think it's one of the good things and the bad things about, I would define you as an entrepreneur by right of what you do, Weston. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's one of the hardest things being an entrepreneur, not knowing where your next paycheck's going to come from, not knowing if what you're setting out to do will actually be achieved, it's having faith in your hustle and your grind and your commitment to your work and your craft. And that's something that is probably the hardest part of entrepreneurship, is backing yourself, even when your family think you're a bit stupid, even when your friends think you're a bit stupid, because I'm pretty sure that you've had a lot of people kind of be like, oh, what's that Weston guy doing? Is he still fucking singing? And then all of a sudden you come in with fucking Hunkpapa, near 300,000 plays on one song, and you're like, fuck you guys.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. But I never give a shit about that. I never, like, this sounds kind of selfish. I don't give a shit what anyone says. And, no, I take on board. Anyone who says anything to me, I take on board what they say. I never rule it out. But if it's someone who's saying, oh, what's your backup plan and stuff, I'm like, get fucked. Get fucked. There is no backup plan. This is it. I'm going to be dead one day. There is no plan. This is it. Get fucked. Sorry, I shouldn't swear. But do you know what I mean? I don't want a backup plan. Like, if my backup plan is doing something else, great. I get successful at that. I make, let's say I make a good salary, whatever. Right? At the end of the day, I could be skiing up in the Alps. I could be on full of douche, dancing the tables, having a great time. But at the back of my head and in my heart, I'm like, I want to be playing a show here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So nothing else is any good to me. It's a curse. Yeah. This is a curse. This isn't like, oh, I love music. This is a curse. It's a plague. I want to be free from it. Not really. I love it. But there you go.
But I think it's the calling. It's the calling that we all get and have inside our hearts, mate. And I think it's a joy to watch you pursue that. But mate, listen, we could talk all day. I need to ask you the big question.
Well, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I'm just interested. Before you ask me a question, Ollie, what's the objective? What's the well, I think I know what your objectives are, but I mean, for me, one thing I'd love to do, sell out the Ulster Hall, right? That's an obvious one. What's your thing like that? What is in your head, the back of your head, this one thing, like this one thing that you can touch that you want to nail? What is it?
Great question. If I was to, there's multiple ways I could answer that. I think right now it is to fully deliver the OLY brand for how I've envisioned it. So the brand mission statement is to help people holistically succeed. Or succeed holistically, and how we do that is, create apparel that supports their functional, active endeavors. Create this podcast that gets people like you, or people like, we had an Olympic swimmer, a CrossFit athlete, or a successful chef. All these guys that have achieved some stuff, and in achieving, they've learned lessons, they've failed a lot of times, and they can share that with other people, and thus other people can learn from their mistakes, and hopefully add more tools to their toolbox to make better decisions in their life. And then the third outlet is the Monday Mantra email list, which is self-development, personal development, philosophical content that we put out. Like we're doing a big 3-part series on ego at the moment, and it's just giving people tools to fucking succeed and progress and go forward in life. And I want that fully implemented. Like, I have a vision of impacting or helping 100,000 people by 2022, and it is kind of a number, and we kind of we almost pulled it out of our ass, but I would have said 1 million because that's a visionary in me, but I said 100,000 because it's closer. And if I can dial in to impacting 100,000 people with either an email or an email read or a podcast download, well, then I am achieving what I set out to do. Like, people think that this business was just a money-making scheme. Money is going to be a byproduct of you wanting to invest your money in this business. And, I feel that that's only deserve it if I have given you information or tools or a product that quintessentially could change the course of your life. And that's my goal. So I don't think there's like
it's kind of, it's more than a t-shirt. It's, kind of a set of values that come with it.
Is the tiny part that comes with it. I'm big into self-development, personal development, and I've seen what it can do for me. I've seen what, you know, the enlightenment it can bring. I've seen how joyful it can make life, and like you said, having humility and humbleness and practicing gratitude. Like, I know that all those things make life incredibly joyful, and they give me the essence of life now. Whereas 5 years ago, it was, oh, who we're going out with? Oh, you pulling those girls? Or are you doing that? You know, all that shit's so mediocre now. And you know, I want people to progress and succeed, but I also want them to see that, you know, the true essence of life and what it can be relative to them. And I also want people to realize that success is not this fucking 7 figures in your bank account.
Well, hold on a second. Hold on, it can be. Success can be. People say this, oh, money's not money could be happiness. What are you on about? It could be. You know,
the analogy I use for that is
if you've loads of money skiing anytime you want, you're happy you're skiing. Oh, money, friends. Who cares? Buy friends. If you have loads of money, you'll have loads of friends because everyone wants your money. I'll be your friend. Buy my dinner. Yes, okay.
Yeah. We don't want to put out a shit message, but I know what you're saying. And like a lot of people say, like, oh, money doesn't buy happiness. Well, money can fucking buy you a jet ski, and I know a jet ski would make me pretty damn happy.
Exactly.
Whether it be for fucking 20 minutes and then I get bored of it, I don't care. Because for that 20 minutes,
it's just a load of endorphins get released regularly. That's it.
Well, that's one way to put it and view it, like, but I agree in a way. I definitely do. So,
I suppose that ideology you just do like smack every day.
Yeah. But I think that to answer your question succinctly is to really deliver the OLY message and what we're trying to do and how we're trying to achieve it. And it's hard because nobody's ever done it before, so there's going to be a bit of grace in getting it wrong, and we have got it wrong in the past. But I think now we're adding clarity to our mission, we're adding clarity to our message, and we're now becoming more effective than ever at communicating this. And I'm just buzzing to try and impact and help people, because for me, as cliche as it sounds, I think like I was born to help people. I'm born to impact people. I'm born to do something, because I think this fucking thing was planted in me for a reason. And whether or not if I help one person change the course, and it's a big statement to say change the course of their life, but if I enlighten someone to a book or an area of self or personal development, and that opened up a gateway to this brand new fucking enlightened life, well, to me, that's my job done. That's why I was put on this earth. That's again, as cliche as it sounds, that's the fucking truth, and that's how I see it. That's my version of reality. And yeah, my ultimatum is to just grow this and grow this and grow this. I mean, we have 5-year plans, we have 10-year plans, we have these grandiose OLY initiative ideas of, like, OLY clothing is just one part of a 5-part initiative of the OLY initiative, and people don't realize that. And you know, I'll be delivering the OLY mission for 15, 20 years if I really, really want to see it through. So, you know, we're still in the infant stages. So that's
like is there, you know, like, let's say music, right? You get a record label comes in and hands you 400 grand to record your album, you become famous. Does that happen in clothes? I'm sure it does, but how does it work?
It can and it can't. So, you know, there's a lot of different ways, and it's relative to your journey as well. I mean, you can start with with where I'm starting is you either need to leverage money and funding, or you leverage skill. Okay, so money and funding refers to resources. Skill refers to skill in general, and you either have one or the other. So we don't have money, and we only have me and Graham in the business right now, and so our skills limited, so we can only grow at a certain rate. So for us to get to the next step, you know, we would need to be talking to investors, and those are the routes we're going down at the moment. So it's something that we need to really it's something that we've had to look at for the last couple of years. But first and foremost, we had to see if the brand even worked. We had to see that people wanted to buy a fucking jumper before I went and asked for 100 grand or whatever it may be to build a business. You know, because I'm not going to inject someone else's cash into something that nobody fucking likes. So it's like, you know, and we also had to build an infrastructure of the business, you know, customer service protocols, all the different protocols for operating, doing our EDBs and our daily tasks. And so all of those things had to get learnt. And then obviously I'm a completely self-taught entrepreneur. I've never done a business course, or I've never done I've never done a degree. I've never done anything relative to business.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So everything I've ever done has been trial and error, getting it wrong, fucking royally getting it wrong, losing my own money. So we had to do all that hard learning, and I'm still getting my ass handed to me on a daily basis. But yeah, that's, you know, that's a big part of it now, that I would feel that confident that if and when we do get our investment in, like, we'll be ready to grow, and it means that we're going to be fully delivering the mission that we set out to deliver.
Yeah, get it done. Go for it.
Yeah, but bro, listen, I could fucking talk about myself all day, and it's a bad thing, not a good thing. So, I want to ask you this question, right? And we ask everyone. We ask everyone, and I mentioned it before in the show, but it's really to show people that your version of success is totally relative to you, and also that it's important to have an idea of what success looks like to you, because you want to have something to work towards or to aspire to. And I think that's healthy in everyone, no matter how big or small your vision of success is. So what is your definition of success, Weston?
My definition for success in terms of your life, well, obviously it's to be happy, and the people you are around to be happy, and you inflict happiness, not misery. So I think that's the baseline. To expand upon that, how you get happy, I think it's important to get happy through wholesome means. If you can get happy, for me, where, as I said, you're bringing joy, not misery, you're not standing on the downtrodden, you're uplifting, you're getting other people to hit their potential, and you love what you're doing, you love your craft, whatever that may be. I think human beings there's something within us to have a role that we fill, a craft, and that can be from the best bread baker in town to, I don't know, an amazing swimming instructor. I think humans have a craft, have a calling, or a skill, and I think that to get good at that and to love that is important. But to cut a long story short, I think doing what you love, being healthy, and having great friends, and also family. You know, this is a controversial thing I have. You know, family's everything. Well, I don't know about that. You can't really choose your family. You know, people have family and their family are assholes, and that's not like I would say go hang out with your family, because they might be assholes, so don't do that. But you know, family's amazing if they're all okay and they're good, right? So friends, family, doing what you love, and being healthy. I think that's success, really. It's surely that's very obvious, and it's different for everyone. You know,
It is different for everyone, but it's, you know, for someone that has such grandiose visions, it's interesting to hear that it's such a pure kind of basic form of success for you is literally to be happy in what you're doing and happy in your existence.
But specific to me, like,
yeah, for sure.
But specific to me, I think, like, obviously, you know, playing to 2,000 people in Hamburg, you know, and having all my friends there, you know, and family, and everyone's healthy and alive, and everyone's doing well, and all my buddies are doing well. You know, I would hate it that I'm doing well and my buddies aren't doing well. You know, that would suck. And the girl I'm with, Hannah, you know, her doing well and healthy. You know, I like to be around people that are excited and have an appetite for life. That for me is a big one. I think you do become your surroundings. So there you go.
I love that, mate. That's I didn't know where you were going to go with that, but I like that, Weston. That's a different take on it. And I think it's a very, very simple one as well, bro.
It is simple. Of course it's simple. Most things are super simple.
I love it, mate. Well, listen, we're nearly at the hour mark, mate. So I think we already are at the hour mark. So we need to cut it off there. But I'm
Well,
sure everybody's going to love listening to this. I'm excited to listen back, mate, because
well, it
you've
it's been
actually put in
wonderful to chat
some.
to you. It really has. And I
Yeah,
remember chatting to you whenever we were out working at a wedding or something, and I was inspired by you then, and I still am. So thank you very much for having me on. And I know you're going to go the distance, so just keep fighting. You know, small victories repeated daily. Swear by that, you'll do all right.
yeah, bro. I fucking love it, and I appreciate it too. It's interesting to see kind of what a few years of hard work will do, and where you'll end up, and it's nice to be able to catch up on that and reminisce on the years of working shitty fucking weddings and
Oh, I
working
can go
for
back to
businesses.
that. I have no money. I'm broke, so I might have to go back to doing that. I'm not joking.
I
I'm not joking. I'm so broke. I owe like, never mind. Never mind. I'm broke.
don't go into the details, but no, listen, Weston. Again, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and hopefully giving some lessons along the way. I mean, for anybody listening, Weston and his band are probably one of my top 3 favorite bands of all time, and I don't say that because Weston is my friend. I say that because his music is that fucking good. You go on to Spotify at Hunkpapa. I don't know what tune I would recommend. I love the song Rachel. I love Losing All. I love Obstructive. I love so many. So that's a shameless plug for you. Do you want to do a wee shameless plug on anything? Have you got anything coming up, or
Oh,
just
not
you've been
really.
right?
No, there's nothing coming up. Just check out the music and, you know, drink 2 bottles of wine if you can. Listen to them and try and just go off in a different dimension. That'll be amazing. And then come buy tickets to see me live whenever you're obsessed.
Yeah, and on that, I will just say that if you do get an opportunity to see Hunkpapa, see them sooner rather than later, because I know they'll be big and you'll soon be paying fucking 45 quid a ticket to see them, and nobody really wants to do that. So
No,
get in and
I've done it
pay the
before.
tenors. Pay the tenors while you can, and Weston's an incredible entertainer and an incredible stageman, and I would highly recommend it to anybody to go and witness it. So, but yes, again, mate, thank you so much for coming on,
Thank
and
you.
I will talk to you really soon. All right.
Be good. Be good. Radiate the joy. Keep it lit.
Boom.